Hello and welcome to what's hopefully going to be a short video. So now that I've finished BlazBlue Calamity trigger, I decided that it was time for me to make a tier list for the characters, and that's going to be essentially for story. This is not for gameplay. Like, gameplay is going to influence some characters, but not all of them. I'm mostly focusing on the story and how much I like the characters in the story. So we're going to have 5 tiers. The hated character tier, the wanted more from them tier, the alright tier, the favorites, the waifu and husbando are only going to have one character per each, one waifu and one husbando. And I'm just going to place them in the tiers and then talk about why characters are in which tier. Give me like a second to place them. Right, there they are. So for the people who just wanted to see the tiers, that's the tier. Let's talk a little bit about the characters. So we're going to just alternate in order to end up at alright, because I don't want to actually end up on a downer or a high note, so let's do that. Starting off with Rachel, I just dislike her personality. It's simple as that. Her design is actually fine. Her buttons are absolutely terrible, so aside from the fact that I just dislike the personality of this character, she's also probably the only character here that's like so against how I play or how I like to play the game, and so hard that she's actually the only character I didn't complete arcade mode with, because it is too hard to win against Mew with this type of character. I just can't. And I don't want to invest the time to learning a character that I don't like in order to just beat arcade with this character. Like, it's just that simple. I just dislike her that much. Moving on to the waifus and husbando tier. What can I say about Lychee that I didn't say during her episode? I just like her episode in general, and I think Lychee is just a really strong character. She has a really pleasant personality. She's also very cute and sexy without being just outright, I don't know, like, I don't know, she's stylish and sexy, let's call it that way, which makes her really cool. I love her panda. I love her animations, they're adorable. I love her story in general. She really has a very nice story in Calamity Trigger. So yeah, I personally love Lychee a lot. Jin is the best character in the game, bar none. And oh yeah, I like how Lychee fights too. Like, Lychee is great in terms of her style of fighting as well. Jin is just the best character in the game for me. Easily, like, by far, the best character in the game. He has the best story, he has the best personality, he has the best reason for being there. He's just the most interesting all around. They gave him so much, like, on top of giving him the best design in the game, quite literally. I think he's so well composed, considering the fact that he has all 3 of the primary colors on him, and yet he manages to look good and not look like a complete cacophony. Like, he looks great. He's the local pretty boy, and they gave him a really cool backstory and a great personality to build. Like, I feel like they overcharged this character. It's kind of hard not to like him, and his playstyle is right up my alley. Like, I love him. He has answers for everything, and it's just easy to do rushdown as well as just zone people out with him. Absolutely love him. So yeah, love both of these characters. Definitely the waifu and husbando of this game. So let's move on to these characters I wanted more from. Arakune, I feel like, is just underdeveloped. Noelle has these weird little things where if you do the distortion finish, you get some of her thoughts, and I feel like it would have been interesting if we would have gotten that with Arakune. Like, I know that the other characters can't understand him, but there's no reason for us not to understand him. That's always been my problem with him, and the fact that he's just very simplistic. He has a couple of interesting lines at the start, and then he's just not there. throughout most of his story, so I really wanted more from him, because otherwise he's just a generic bad guy. New and Noel are absolutely two characters that should have just been one character. They are absolutely terrible together, because one of them has a really good motivation for why she's part of the story and why she's integral to the story and really interesting, but they don't do anything with her. Like, the story ends for her the same way as it would have done any other time, except that now she's gonna become the Black Beast alone without Ragna. So it's like flipping terrible how her story ends, how the true ending handles her. I feel like that's just, considering how good of a character she has, I think she was done dirty in this game. Whereas Noelle is just a terrible character who they are portraying as being the main female character, and I'm like, what is her goal here? Why is she the one who ends up saving Ragna? Like, for all you know, Hakumen could have been there and just decided to, not let Ragna fall into the pit and become the Black Beast, so he could have saved him, and Noelle wouldn't have even been necessary. Like, I don't understand her purpose. They did a bad job with her. She has an okay personality. Her design is great. Her fighting style is fucking terrible, but it's another thing. But she has the design, she has the personality, she just doesn't have the motivation to be a main character, and the story just doesn't treat her well unless it's the gag ending, and at that point in time these guys are also gag characters and they're just better than her. That's my problem with her. She literally does not have main character storyline despite the fact that she is main character. So yeah, really disappointed with her. Would have wanted more from New, and I feel like these two stories could have just been fixed, let's say, if Noelle was just an alternate personality of New, and New decided to save herself at the end, and that would have saved Ragna, and decided to become Noelle. I feel like that would have just been a better story. No, I just don't like these characters. Separate, they're such a mess. Together, they would have been something. Moving on to the favorites list. And we can talk about Hakumen just to get him out of the way, because Hakumen is basically Jin. The cooler version of Jin. They even tell you this in the first game. It's very much revealed in... it's hinted at in Jin's route, and it's very much revealed in Hakumen's route that Hakumen is Jin from another timeline, from one of the many parallel worlds that have happened. He went back, he defeated the Black Beast, and he just has a very cool story. Like, if you look at his arcade ending, it's absolutely great. His story is also great, and he is really well designed as a boss character. Which is something that New is only well designed when it comes to characters like Rachel, who can't handle her. But Hakumen is just designed to be intimidating no matter who you are, because he's always gonna do a bajillion damage if he touches you. So he's always gonna be like, oh my god, I whiffed an attack against Hakumen, I'm gonna get punished, like, cause it's super hard, and there goes half of my HP when I've been trying for like 15 seconds or something to get him below, and in 3 seconds tops he's just equaled the life bar or made your life bar even lower than his. It's like, it's a very annoying yet simplistic way to design a character, because he just does a lot of damage and he has a lot of HP, but at the same time his role in the story kind of dictates that he's an overpowered boss, so I feel like that fits his character really well. So I just like the way that he functions within the story and the role that he has. He doesn't feel too oppressive. I always felt like I had tools to deal with Hakumen. It's something that I can't say for the matchup between these two. Like, Rachel does not have tools to deal with New. I just don't believe it. I don't care if you're a Rachel player and you can beat New. I don't care. Like, she just doesn't have tools as far as I'm concerned. Hakumen is just... he's overpowered enough to the point where he's annoying, but he's not overpowered to the point where he is oppressive and you feel like there's no chance of beating him, and that's what I like about him. Ragna is just a generically very good main character. He is a bit, well, me saying that he's generic is actually, like, it goes both ways. Yes, his personality is not out, like, he's a very honest character. He says exactly what he means. He doesn't have any hidden agendas that the player doesn't know about, because he's like completely honest about what he wants to do, and he does exactly what he says he's gonna do. But at the same time, which is very good for a character, because he learns about all of the different mechanics and stuff that are happening in the world with the player, so he functions both as somebody who is, let's say, a bit new to this situation and doesn't know what the F is going on, so he can be surprised just as the audience is surprised. But at the same time, he also has his own interesting little mechanic that makes him the center of attention without needing to be like overpowered or a Mary Sue or something that like everybody wants to come after for no reason. He has a very good reason why he's the center of attention and why he's the main character. And I feel like establishing a character like him and making him work within a franchise is impressive. So he is just good. He's just great, I should say. He just does his job well. And he, in terms of fighting mechanics, also I would say he has enough to be to make him feel like he can hold his own. Like, it's not just talk or main character syndrome. He has enough in terms of fighting style that he plays really easily, he plays really well. I don't feel like he has any bad matchups, in my personal opinion. I never felt like any of these characters could oppress me like the same way Rachel gets oppressed by New, for example. It's like, so I just like him in general because he's the right amount of good and balanced without feeling like he's overpowered and cheap, and that the story revolves around him for no reason. It's a good reason and I like it. Moving on to the character who a lot of people wouldn't, I do feel like people like Bang because he's the comic relief, and goddamn, this game would have been so boring without him. So I feel like he's very necessary. But at the same time, when you realize the characters feel split into like their own little mini sections. So let's say you have Ragna, Jin, Noelle, Hakumen, Rachel, and Neil, and that would be your main characters, right? Well, every single other character is connected somehow through Bang, like all of these other characters. Like, these two are Bang's apprentices, these two are his rivals for Lychee. And so you have like this neat little group of characters, the secondary characters, how I like to call them, that are essentially tied together by one character. And it does a really, like, Bang does a really good job of tying together that part of the story and making it coherent. Like, you're not just randomly, oh, I'm looking for Hakumen actually, and the Ratney and Lychee are afterthoughts, but just because Bang wants to get involved with Tiger, suddenly it flows more fluently and it makes more sense why these characters are so interconnected. So for me, Bang feels like an integral part of the story because he just ties together so many other subplots that otherwise would be vaguely connected but are not really like integrated well. So I like Bang because he fulfills that role, also because he's a very funny character, and because he's kind of sort of like a mini Hakumen, where he can also do a butt ton of damage to you in a very short amount of time, and he's faster than Hakumen and than Tiger, so he can be somewhat oppressive and cheap. Which I kind of sort of like. His style in general is funny. Like, his lines are absolutely ridiculous, which is really funny and adds to his humor. So I feel like Bang is just a well-constructed character, and because he's in the game, he also makes the other stories make a lot more sense and be more well-connected. And I really appreciate him for that. And now we just go to the alright tier. What can I say about the alright tier? Taokaka is a character who has potential through other people's story. It's like Lychee and one of her endings where they explain about what the Kaka clan is in general, and what Taokaka's role is, but at the same time her story is something that would be missing if she weren't in here, like a really carefree character that just doesn't care and just randomly gets involved with these kinds of people. It's nice when you have one of those, because if you're going to have only plot, oh my god, it's gonna get boring real fast. So I really do like the audition of her. She serves the role that she was made for really well. She's not exceptional, she's not great, she's not wow, but she just serves her purpose, and I do appreciate her for that. So she's alright for me. Carl was one that I was surprised about, because quite frankly I thought that I was gonna hate Carl. I thought that he was gonna be just as complicated to play as Rachel and going to be just as much of a headache. Technically speaking, yes, he is, until you realize Carl actually has a good button that he can spam, unlike Rachel. Because otherwise, I personally like Carl's story. I feel like his story has the potential to grow more than a lot of other characters. He's the one with the more intrigue and interesting things behind him, because everybody else has, let's say, a precedent, like Noelle and her bulwark. You also have Jin and his Nox and Victorious, and they're both struggling a little bit with their weapon controlling them, right? You have Rachel, who also has a counterpart in Terumi, who's also there being a bystander and just manipulating things in the background, right? These two are basically the same character. These two are also like from with Kokonoe, and both of these guys are from Ikaruga. Like, you have people interconnected, but Carl is the only one with a mannequin, and we don't know much about that yet. And his story is pretty interesting because you don't have anybody to corroborate his story, right? So Noelle was like in school with Jin, and Jin and Ragnar know each other, and Bang has a whole bunch of people who know about him, but Carl is like alone and on his own, and the one who's the least explored, let's say, despite the fact that there are characters hinting at what the dog can do and Carl's role in the story. So I feel like he's the character with the most room amount to grow. It's a good introduction for a character like him who's not integral to the story. So I like him a lot. And Taeger is in extremes for me, because he's either one of the funniest characters around, if Bang wasn't a thing, and Bang is always funny, or he's either one of the more serious characters around with the deeper subplot. He's also a little bit like Carl in the sense that he's a bit of an unknown, but at the same time he just has a lot of backstory and some connections that give him some kind of character and some wings, let's say, to spread. And I think that him and Kokonoe are just a great pair. They get along really well. Their dynamic, better said, is really well established and really likable, and so easy to just get into and enjoy. So I personally found Taeger to be very enjoyable, because not only is his dynamic with Kokonoe really good, I also like his dynamic with Bang, his dynamic with Lychee. Like, he just has really good interactions with a lot of people. Even his dynamic with Hakumen is interesting. So Taeger is just somebody who is genuinely interesting, and I can't wait to see more of. He's also, however, a little bit underexplored, so just call this the underexplored tier, but they're alright. Like, for what they have, they're really good. And yeah, that was pretty much it. That was pretty much my tier list for BlazBlue in terms of just characters and how much I liked them and what I would like moving forward. Like, I hope she gets a better story. I don't remember Continuing Shift that well, Noelle from Continuing Shift that well. And I do feel like New was done super dirty in this game. I want more from Arachne, because he's a little bit underdeveloped. I can't stand Rachel, but that's never gonna change. And yeah, that was pretty much my list. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.